Black delivery driver fixes $100 million problem in seconds. Engineers shocked. If you're so brilliant, fix it right now. The order echoed through the control room like a gunshot. Michael Harrison, TechCorp's chief technology officer, stood fuming as crimson error messages pulsed on every monitor. Their core system had been completely down for 3 hours, freezing operations for dozens of corporate clients. Standing awkwardly in the middle of the chaos was Kesha Williams, a 24-year-old food courier who had only come to deliver Michael's lunch. She still had her insulated backpack over her shoulder when she happened to glance at the main screen. A slip of words left her mouth before she could stop it, an observation that made every engineer freeze in disbelief. "Sorry, but that code's failing because of a cache conflict," she explained, placing the lunch on a nearby table. "You tried to restart the primary server without first clearing the pending transaction buffer." The entire room went dead silent. 20 engineers, recruited from the most prestigious universities, some earning six-figure salaries, turned to stare at a young black woman in a delivery uniform, someone who apparently diagnosed in seconds what they failed to untangle for hours. Michael let out a cold, mocking laugh, dripping with scorn. "Right. I'm sure you totally get how this works," he sneered. "Maybe finish high school before you lecture me. Just go back to running orders and leave this to the professionals." A ripple of laughter spread among the other engineers. David Park, the lead systems architect, crossed his arms with a smug grin. "Look, miss," he said condescendingly, "this isn't some toaster you're trying to reboot. This is a backbone system that moves millions every day." But Kesha stood perfectly still, her dark eyes steady and unshaken by their derision. There was something about her calm and unspoken, dangerous certainty that made at least a few of them uneasy. "All right," she replied evenly, adjusting her backpack strap. "But when you see that I'm right and the system is back online within 2 minutes of doing what I said, remember me." Michael laughed even harder, almost theatrical. 2 minutes? Listen, this system has been toast for 3 hours, with 20 of the best people on it. You think a delivery girl is going to teach us?" Kesha only offered a faint, almost sad smile, one that didn't reach her eyes. A quiet weight rested behind it, as if she carried a secret none of them could begin to fathom. If this story of prejudice and blind arrogance strikes you, the narrator might say, subscribe to see how one humble delivery changed an entire industry. Michael Harrison couldn't stop thinking about it. 3 days later, he was still haunted by the moment when that food courier had dared to call him out in front of his entire team and been correct, because after they followed her advice, the system had come back online precisely 2 minutes later. But Michael was not the sort of man to accept being upstaged by someone he considered beneath him. An MIT alumnus with 15 years of experience and a $200,000 salary, he refused to believe a random delivery worker knew more than him. "I tracked her down," David Park announced as he walked into Michael's office with a sly grin. Kesha Williams, 24. Runs deliveries for 3 different apps. Lives over on the East Side. Dropped out of a computer science program in her 3rd year. Michael's brows lifted. "Dropped out? Why?" David shrugged. "Typical story. Couldn't pay tuition. Low-income family, couldn't keep up with her own dreams." Michael sighed with disdain. "People like her. They think they can walk into our world and talk to us like equals," he scoffed, gazing out over the city from his 23rd floor window. "There's an order to things. She doesn't understand that." David chuckled in agreement. "Yeah. I bet she learned a few programming tricks off some website and now thinks she's a genius." Beginner's luck. What neither of them realized was that Kesha's story was far from typical. She hadn't dropped out of college because she lacked talent, she had done it to care for her mother, who was battling cancer. In her third year of computer science, she'd been forced to choose, keep her education going, or work day and night to afford her mother's treatment. She chose family. For 2 relentless years, she had juggled multiple jobs, scraping by while teaching herself to code in the dead of night. Her office was a cardboard box stacked with old textbooks, her computer lab a second-hand laptop she'd bought with borrowed money. Michael had no clue that she'd also created, on her own, a route optimization algorithm for delivery workers more efficient than anything TechCorp's experts had devised. But Michael's bruised ego wasn't satisfied with ignoring her. The following Thursday, he made calls to every food delivery service in the city. Leveraging TechCorp's purchasing power, he lied to each one, claiming Kesha had been disrespectful and posed a security problem. As the CTO of a major enterprise, I can't have employees like that on our premises, he told the app supervisors, manufacturing a story of misconduct. Within 24 hours, Kesha was locked out of every delivery account she depended on. No explanation. No chance to appeal. No income. She sat in her small kitchen, staring at the suspension notifications and at the pile of medical bills that threatened to drown her family. Her hands trembled as she read the messages again, but the tremor wasn't from fear, it was rage, mixed with a powerful determination. "Honey, what's wrong?" her mother, Helen, asked gently, appearing in the doorway, still weak from a recent round of chemotherapy. Kesha forced a reassuring smile. "Nothing, Mom. Just, work problems. I'll handle it." She hugged Helen carefully, trying not to show the tears threatening to spill. "I'll fix everything," she vowed. That night, Kesha cracked open her battered laptop again. But this time, she wasn't tweaking a delivery route or debugging small side projects. This time, she was planning something far bigger. Every line of code she wrote came from the deepest places of frustration, years of being dismissed, years of doors slammed in her face. Michael Harrison had awakened something in her he could never have predicted. The slow-building wrath of a woman underestimated her whole life, who finally decided she'd had enough. For a brief moment, Kesha had felt the hopelessness, the unfairness of being cut off with no recourse. But anyone who really knew her would have recognized the look she wore now, the calm before a hurricane. For the next 2 weeks, she balanced a fragile life. By day, she scoured job postings for anything that could help her keep the lights on: cleaning shifts, waitressing, whatever she could find to cover her mother's care. By night, she transformed into a software architect, building something that would shake the very industry that had spat her out. Every rejection letter, every interviewer who looked down on her, every unpaid bill, it all became another brick in the digital empire she was constructing. "Honey, you haven't slept," Helen murmured one night around 3 a.m. seeing Kesha hunched over the screen, eyes blazing. Kesha looked up, smiling with something close to hope. "I'm working on a project, Mom. Something that's going to change everything. Please trust me." Meanwhile, back at TechCorp, Michael felt triumphant. During a conference room meeting, he recounted the incident like a hilarious party story. "Remember that girl who tried to tell us how to fix our network?" Michael laughed, leaning against the long boardroom table. "I made sure she can't even deliver to us anymore. Had her blacklisted everywhere." David Park burst out laughing. "Perfect. She needs to know her place." What they didn't see was Jennifer Chun, a senior engineer sitting quietly in the corner. Jennifer, who had been the only one to stick up for Kesha that day, had been forced to back down in front of the team. Now, hearing Michael gleefully boast about destroying someone's livelihood, she could no longer stay silent. Discreetly, Jennifer tapped the record button on her phone, capturing every toxic word. That night, Jennifer took a brave step. She tracked down Kesha's social media account and wrote a private message. "Hi Kesha, I'm Jennifer. I work at TechCorp. I saw what happened that day, and I need to tell you what Michael did. Can we meet?" When Kesha read the message, suspicion stabbed at her. It could easily be a setup. But there was something in Jennifer's tone that rang painfully true. She agreed to meet in a small coffee shop downtown. Sitting across from Jennifer, Kesha listened in stunned silence to the playback of Michael bragging about cutting off her work and lying to the apps. "He really did this?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Jennifer's eyes were hard. "Worse. He's proud of it," she spat. "He couldn't stand a black woman making him look incompetent. That was the only reason." Jennifer slid a slip of paper across the table. "These are the contacts of people who can help you: lawyers, reporters. You don't have to fight him alone." Kesha picked up the paper, her heart pounding. For the first time in weeks, she felt a surge of possibility, a shift in her destiny, like a flame reigniting. She was about to do more than fix a server. She was going to rewrite the rules. For all of TechCorp's most critical corporate clients, companies whose daily operations depended on their infrastructure, the exposure of Michael Harrison's true behavior would be catastrophic. If anyone could prove he had made technical decisions based on wounded pride instead of solid engineering, his reputation would be shattered. Kesha accepted the slip of paper with trembling hands. "Why help me?" she asked, searching Jennifer's eyes. "You don't even know me." Jennifer sighed, a heavy weariness in her shoulders. "Because I've stood exactly where you stand now," she confessed. 3 years ago, Michael tried to fire me after I corrected an error in a pitch to our investors. The only reason I survived it was because I had a union rep and a good lawyer. You didn't get that chance. Maybe together, we can finally hold him accountable." That night, Kesha turned on her laptop with a renewed spark. She was no longer coding to survive, she was coding to fight back. What had started as a personal project morphed into something far more sophisticated: a vulnerability scanning platform capable of analyzing corporate systems and instantly pinpointing weaknesses. But Kesha had also uncovered a disturbing truth. Over weeks of research and night after night of reviewing public code samples, she realized TechCorp had a frightening number of critical security holes. Vulnerabilities so basic, so glaring, that any halfway decent engineer should have found them. But somehow Michael's team of 20 had missed every one. No, Kesha thought grimly. They didn't miss them. They ignored them. Over the following week, she set the first pieces of her plan in motion. Using contact names Jennifer had passed her, she built convincing, professional-looking social media profiles and connected directly with the CTOs of TechCorp's biggest client firms. Her approach was simple, clean, and perfectly legal. She offered free vulnerability assessments, no strings attached, no shady tricks. What these clients didn't know was that the very flaws she would expose to them were the same ones hidden in TechCorp's flagship products. One evening, Helen paused at the kitchen doorway, watching her daughter for the first time in weeks without a look of raw desperation. "How's it going?" she asked gently. Kesha leaned back from her screen, a quiet confidence in her smile. "Much better than I ever hoped, Mom," she replied. but the glint in her eyes wasn't just about relief anymore. It was purpose, a fire that could no longer be put out. At that same moment, Michael Harrison was jolted by the first of many calls that would flip his life upside down. "Michael, this is Rodriguez at Megacorp," the voice snapped through the phone. "We need to speak urgently. We've received an external audit reporting serious vulnerabilities in the systems you built for us. The same ones you assured me were bulletproof." Michael's breath turned to ice. "There must be some mistake, Mr. Rodriguez. Our security passed every certification. The audit came from a security expert named Kay Williams. Do you know her?" Michael's blood ran cold. "Kesha Williams. The delivery girl. Michael, are you still there?" Yes, I'll look into it," he stammered. He ended the call, his hands shaking. Not from fear, not yet, but from the first realization that he might have created a far more dangerous enemy than he had ever imagined. And Kesha wasn't even close to finished. This was only the opening move. One client after another called TechCorp, citing A.K. Williams' vulnerability report and demanding immediate explanations. Michael was still scrambling for answers when Kesha launched the second phase of her plan, a coordinated reveal of Michael's personal failings, his sabotage, and his technical negligence, all backed by irrefutable proof. For a fleeting moment, as Michael saw the name Kay Williams appear again on his screen, he felt a pang of something, shame, maybe, or fear, but it was quickly buried by his desperation to keep control. Yet there are some errors so vast, some betrayals so deep, that no apology can ever fix them. Monday morning arrived like a nightmare. As Michael walked into TechCorp's glass headquarters, his assistant practically leapt from her chair. "Mr. Harrison, we need to talk," she whispered, ashen-faced. 12 major clients have terminated their contracts in the past 24 hours. They all referenced the same audit findings. Michael felt the blood drain from his head. 12 clients, nearly 60% of the company's annual revenue gone overnight. What audit? Who authorized this? "No one did, sir," she answered shakily. "A consultant reached out directly. They took him up on the offer." Before he could reply, the phone rang again. It was Richard Goldman, CEO of Dataflow Industries, one of TechCorp's highest value partners. "Michael, we're done," Goldman barked. "Your systems are riddled with vulnerabilities you claim didn't exist. Even worse, we discovered you knew about them for months and said nothing." "Richard, there must be a misunderstanding," Michael tried, voice faltering. "The misunderstanding," Richard snapped, "was that we ever trusted you." He hung up without another word. Michael slumped behind his desk, trembling. Kesha Williams had somehow accessed TechCorp's most guarded system logs. How? His answer arrived moments later, in the form of a company-wide email. The subject line chilled him to the bone: "Transparency and integrity, a necessary conversation." Jennifer Chun had sent it to the entire staff. "Dear colleagues, as an employee of TechCorp for 5 years, I feel compelled to disclose the following information about decisions affecting our collective integrity." The email explained how Michael had willfully ruined Kesha's employment because she dared to correct him. How he had bragged about blacklisting her from every app. How the vulnerabilities Kesha had identified in seconds had been ignored and were now responsible for millions in damage. 15 minutes after the message went live, it had been reposted by half the staff. Within 30, it was trending on social media. Within the hour, every major technology news outlet had picked up the story. Michael stormed into Jennifer's office, rage boiling. "You're finished here. I'll see you blackballed in this industry for defaming me. A measured voice interrupted him from the doorway. Actually, she's protected against retaliation. Michael turned and froze. Kesha stood there, composed, accompanied by a lawyer and two reporters. She carried a battered laptop and a thick folder of documents. Surprised, she asked with a steady, calm smile. I'm here to deliver the security audit you insisted I wasn't qualified to do. Michael's jaw dropped. You can't be here. Security. I didn't break in, Kesha replied gently. The Tech Corp board hired me after 12 clients walked out. When the shareholders demand answers, they bring in someone who knows what they're doing. The journalists switched on their cameras. One leaned forward, microphone in hand. Mr. Harrison, is it true you used your corporate power to destroy a young black woman's livelihood just because she corrected a technical mistake? Michael scanned the office in panic. Jennifer was standing by proudly. David Park had vanished behind a door, and the rest of the team watched from behind glass partitions, wide-eyed. That's a misunderstanding. Michael blurted out. Kesha placed her laptop on the table, powering up a detailed slideshow of security audit results. I'd like to demonstrate the 23 critical vulnerabilities I documented, she said in a calm, professional tone. Vulnerabilities that have cost your clients upwards of $4 million. They were so obvious a student could have spotted them in a routine code review. Michael's face went pale. Our systems passed every certification. Your certifications were sloppy and incomplete, Kesha cut in, voice unwavering. You prioritized speed and personal comfort over actual safety. Exactly the kind of negligence you'd expect from someone more worried about his ego than his customers. Her lawyer stepped forward. Mr. Harrison, he began coolly, my client is considering legal action for defamation, racial discrimination, and deliberate interference with her contractual income. The second reporter interjected, and several of Tech Corp's customers are planning a class action suit against you personally. Early estimates put the damage over $8 million. Michael collapsed into his chair, face ashen, hands shaking uncontrollably. Why, he whispered hoarsely, meeting Kesha's steady gaze. Why not just walk away? She closed her laptop softly and looked him dead in the eye. Because someone had to prove that skill, determination, and intelligence have nothing to do with color or class, she answered. And because people like you only learn through consequences you cannot ignore. Kesha stepped away, joined by Jennifer and the journalists, who filmed every moment. Jennifer slipped her resignation letter on the desk. I'll be joining Kesha's consulting firm, she announced. As they walked out together, Michael stared across his office, feeling a suffocating sense of finality. Everything he built was crumbling because he had underestimated a girl with a food delivery bag, someone who had turned every hateful barrier thrown in her path into fuel for a masterstroke of poetic justice. Kesha Williams stood by the panoramic window of her new office, 21 floors above the city, taking in the skyline that stretched far into the afternoon haze. The space still felt almost surreal, the polished floors, the quiet hum of productivity, the proud company logo of Secure Code Solutions on the glass door. From a single idea born out of rage and injustice, she had built one of the most respected cybersecurity consultancies in the country. Jennifer Chun, now Director of Operations, stepped into the office with a folder of proposals stacked in her arms. 17 new contracts this month, she announced with a bright grin. 3 of those are former Tech Corp clients. They came to us after seeing our vulnerability reports. Kesha nodded, a calm, thoughtful smile appearing on her lips. It wasn't a grin of revenge, it was the quiet confidence of a person who had turned her lowest moment into a launchpad. "How's TechCorp faring these days?" she asked, even though she already knew. Jennifer sighed, setting the folder down. "Michael was fired last week. TechCorp has lost 80% of its corporate clients in half a year. They're trying to stay afloat, but bankruptcy is on the table. He's apparently suing former clients for breach of contract, but no one is paying attention to him anymore." Kesha finished Jennifer's sentence with a subtle smirk. "And he's doing some freelance work now, but no one trusts him." "Exactly," Jennifer confirmed. Kesha let out a quiet exhale. "Funny how a reputation works, isn't it? Years to build, moments to destroy." The truth was that Michael Harrison had learned the most brutal lesson of his life. Competence had never been about degrees, resumes, or who you played golf with. After he was dismissed from TechCorp, he tried to rebuild his name, but Jennifer's audio recording where he had proudly admitted to sabotaging Kesha because of her race and status had gone viral across the tech world. Companies that had once courted him for high-profile consulting jobs now wouldn't return his calls. Former colleagues who had laughed at his jokes about knowing your place now acted like they'd never met him. Even David Park had posted a public statement distancing himself from Michael's prejudice, afraid of the social fallout. Helen, Kesha's mother, walked in just then with a tray of fresh coffee. Her health had turned around dramatically since Kesha could afford the best medical care. Her face glowed with renewed strength. "You know what's the most poetic thing about this?" Helen asked, handing her daughter a mug. "That man tried to grind you into the dirt because he thought you didn't belong in his world. And now you're 3 floors above where he ever stood." Kesha pulled her mother into a hug, soft laughter dancing in her voice. "It was never about being above him, Mom. It was about showing that talent can come from anywhere. That if the system fails to protect you, you can build your own." The phone rang just then, breaking the moment. Jennifer picked it up, then handed it to Kesha. "It's the National Technology Conference," she explained. "They want you as their keynote speaker." Kesha paused, processing the name. The same conference where Michael had been the star for 5 consecutive years. This time, he wasn't even invited. She accepted the offer without hesitation. "Tell them I'll be there," she said firmly. "I want to speak about how true diversity in tech isn't just about inclusion, but about performance. About how many problems could be solved if companies stopped dismissing people by their looks." Jennifer grinned in admiration. "I'm so glad they'll hear that from you." Meanwhile, across town, Michael Harrison tore open yet another rejection letter for a job he had applied to in desperation. His bank balance was all but gone, his sleek downtown condo had been sold to pay legal bills, and he was now crammed into a run-down studio apartment on the outskirts of the city. For the first time in his life, he truly felt what it was to be judged not for his talent, but for the harm he had caused, and there was no sugarcoating the fallout. No headhunters called him. No company wanted the scandal. Michael Harrison, once a rock star of the tech world, had been reduced to a pariah with no prospects, a cautionary tale whispered at networking mixers about arrogance and prejudice. He had tried to annihilate a food delivery worker for daring to correct him, and in doing so, he had unwittingly set in motion the rise of one of the most respected cyber defense consultancies in the country. Back at Secure Code Solutions, Jennifer watched Kesha scanning the latest client contracts. "You know," Jennifer said, leaning against the door, "what you did wasn't just revenge. It was justice. You turned an attack meant to destroy you into a platform to lift up a whole group of people." Kesha looked up with a serene confidence that had taken a long time to build. "The best revenge," she said softly, "isn't about tearing down the people who try to break you. It's about building something so powerful, so excellent, that they're forced to see just how small they really were." A year after that humiliating day at TechCorp, Kesha had proven one undeniable truth: there was, in fact, a hierarchy in the tech industry. But it had nothing to do with skin color, family background, or elite degrees. It was built on competence, resilience, and the courage to stand up for justice when no one else would. Secure Code Solutions had grown to 45 employees, many of them engineers who had been overlooked by other corporations for all the wrong reasons: their accents, their family histories, the color of their skin. Kesha had forged not just a thriving business, but a movement that proved diversity and technical brilliance could thrive hand in hand. Michael Harrison had tried to destroy a woman delivering lunch because he couldn't handle being corrected. In the end, he had lost his job, his money, his network, and his pride, and unintentionally helped spark one of the most innovative tech firms in the country. Kesha had learned a lesson, too. That true triumph was never about leaving your enemies in ruin, but about rising so far beyond their reach that they couldn't even comprehend the heights you'd scaled. She took one last glance through her office window, watching the traffic swirl below. Then she turned back to her laptop, smiling at the speaking invitation for the National Technology Conference. It was time to show the industry that its greatest talents didn't always look the way they expected. That brilliance, determination, and character could be found in places no resume ever listed, and that ignoring that truth was a risk no company could afford. Helen set down a small framed photo on Kesha's desk, a snapshot of them together from years ago, both smiling, full of hope, before the cancer, before the chaos. "You did it, baby," Helen said softly, emotion in her voice. Kesha reached for her mother's hand and squeezed it gently. "No, we did it," she corrected, her voice full of pride and gratitude. If this journey of resilience and redemption has stirred something in your heart, remember this: skill has no color, brilliance has no address, and courage has no class. Sometimes life's greatest storms don't destroy you, they clear a path to a destiny you never dared to dream.